So hello and welcome to the New Gig podcast. I'm your host, Glen Hodgson, and today I am delighted to be joined by the Global Head of Public Policy for Wolt, Mr. Samuel Laurinkari. Samuel, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Glen.
Excellent. Well, let's kick things off by if you can explain a little bit about the work that you're doing at the moment and also the development of Wolt, which is a rising star in the instant delivery space.
Sure. Yeah, so and indeed, as you said, I'm heading up public policy for us across all of the markets in which we're operating in. I joined the company more or less exactly 12 months ago, and I must admit it's been quite the ride. We are a very fast growing company in a sector that has become an essential service throughout during the crisis. We are facilitating sales of restaurants and of retailers in times that they have restrictions in their business. We're allowing people to stay home and getting access to the services and goods they need. So we've been of course under high pressure to remain operational, being able to serve our clients, our customers, being able to serve our merchant partners, and of course also contributing to the sort of like policy objectives of governments that are trying to fight the crisis. So it's been a really interesting ride. My role as head of public policy is to lead our engagements with policymakers, with authorities, with the broader civil society on all kind of discussions that impact our role in the society, regulations that impact our business, and making sure that we are a constructive, active participant in societal discussions, in regulatory discussions, and we can make sure that we contributing in a positive way to these.
Excellent. I think it's a valuable and essential role that you have at the moment, given the kind of, shall we put it on two levels? One is the lack of knowledge and information about what the sector and what you're really doing. And secondly, sort of basically addressing some of the negativity and the negative views that are actually have around the sector as well, Samuel. So how are you going about that?
Yeah, good question, and maybe a few words on Wolt. So we're essentially, as you also described it, a restaurant and retail intermediation and delivery platform. The reason why I'm describing it in such a complicated way is that we started off as a restaurant delivery platform, as a platform that connects restaurant with customers, allows customers to discover food that they wish to order, conclude transactions with restaurants and have it delivered to them. But we have expanded significantly and relatively quickly, in particular in the last 12 months, into other areas, into different retail verticals. So now we're partnering with supermarkets, convenience stores, flower shops, electronics retailers, bookstores, fashion retailers, what have you not, anything that exists in the city, bringing the local brick and mortar physical inventory that exists in a city onto our platform and making it available for our customers with very fast delivery or instant delivery. So that's the direction of travel, and I think that's internationally what we're seeing, that the general direction of e-commerce, adding this really local element, helping local brick and mortar retailers to remain relevant in e-commerce by offering them a hyper fast delivery time to local consumers. Now, just on the societal discussion, of course, I think we've seen unprecedented scrutiny and attention on our business in the last 12 months, because what COVID has meant to a lot of our restaurant and merchant partners has been restrictions. So restaurants have been ordered to close. There have been restrictions on how many people can visit retail stores. Customers have been advised to avoid going out, avoid going into shops, avoid going to restaurants. So at certain moments of the crisis, we have situation where pretty much the only people you see on the streets are delivery personnel of delivery providers of different platforms, in addition to of course ambulances and police. So we have had a very big role in this crisis, become a certain essential service. So the public focus, the focus of the general public, the attention, but also of policymakers and regulators, has been unprecedented. And given that we as part of the broader global platform economy, but in particular as a platform work model representing certain types of platform work models, are still relatively new phenomena, globally speaking. Governments and policymakers and the broader society are still trying to figure out what this means. What are these new types and forms of work? How to best regulate them? What is good about these things, and what are perhaps the current shortcomings of these models? And that the COVID crisis and the sort of central and prominent role that platforms have had, or delivery platforms have had in the crisis, have definitely accelerated these discussions as well. And there we've seen really it's a responsibility, of course, for us as a platform also to be heavily engaged in discussions, be transparent about our model, explain what we do, what kind of opportunities we're providing for different sides of the platform, how we see that things could be developed, and how and most importantly, how do we make sure that when as we at some point, and I hope soon, gradually grow out of the crisis, how do we make sure that we're moving to a better form, a flexible and a flexible and inclusive and fair version of platform work post the COVID crisis as well.
Yeah, and I think it's this development which is the really important part. This is, it's not a result in itself. It's an ongoing process, and the evolution will always be there. But I think that this is the thing that gets lost, because I know that yourselves at Wolt are really involved in this reaching out and being a stakeholder, being a partner in co-creating the future and making sure it's right for governments, businesses, and individuals as well. So that's, I think, the positive element that sometimes gets lost. People don't hear about that, maybe aren't aware of what's happening here.
Yeah, no, and it's a let's say the platform work and the type of economic activity that platforms facilitate is a complex discussion topic, where there's many sides to it. There's many different types of platforms that have very different types of ways of operating, and there are many different voices and stakeholders to the conversation, and some of the concepts are complex and need to be sort of laid out in a transparent and interactive way with all interested parties. But essentially, from our perspective, and in a nutshell, what this discussion is about is that we as a company have onboarded around 40,000 career partners in the last 12 months, meaning that we've brought people onto our platform, providing them with flexible opportunities to earn. And these people are able to log on to our platform whenever they want. They can accept or reject any delivery task that is being offered to them. They can log off from the platform whenever they want. They can choose whatever vehicle they want. They can choose how to work and where to work. So the model provides this incredibly flexible way of earning income. So you log onto the platform whenever you want. You work as much as you want. So you can log onto the platform now, do one delivery, log off, and then not show up at all for the next 4 months, and then do one full day of deliveries. Or you can say, every Friday actually works for me. I want to have a little bit of extra income. So every Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. I'll do deliveries, log on to the platform, and then log off again. Or you can log on every day at the same time, work 8 hours and log off, and do that 5 days a week. So it's completely up to the couriers, to our courier partners, to choose how they wish to use our platform and leverage it. So there's no obligation to ever come and work on the platform. So this is a good thing. It's fundamentally a good thing. It's a low barrier way of accessing the labor market for a lot of people. We don't have strict educational or language requirements for couriers.
Right.
We have more than 200,000 people queuing to be Wolt couriers worldwide, and as our platform and our business grows, we'll taking people from the queue to join our platform so they can start doing the deliveries. So what is good is the flexibility. We can provide a lot of earning opportunities for a lot of people, and it's very low barrier with no educational or language requirements.
Right.
All of that is good. What is not good is that that flexibility is available in most countries, is only available in a self-employed model.
Right.
And self-employed contractors in most countries have weaker access to social safety nets compared to employees. So we are not able to provide our courier partners, so we're not allowed to provide our courier partners with holiday pay, sick pay, pension contribution, even insurance. And we would be allowed to do that. We would be allowed to provide holiday pay, sick pay, pension contributions, insurance, if couriers would be employed. But the employment model then is fundamentally different. It means shifts. You have a fixed shift, tell people to come to a certain place at a certain time. You have an obligation to work. You cannot reject certain tasks that are being given to you. You have an obligation to accept every delivery task that's being appointed. You have a boss. You have efficiency monitoring in place.
Right.
And you have, as a whole, obviously, much less freedom to decide when to work, how much to work, how to work, which tasks to accept, which to reject, etc.
Yeah.
On the upside, of course, is the better safety net. So in our view, what would be the ideal is that we'd be able to combine the best of both worlds, have the flexibility of the contractor model combined with the better safety nets that exist in the employment model. And that has really been our message also to policymakers, because you see a lot of this discussion on classification. Should couriers be considered employees? And there's quite often this misperception that employment would somehow be automatically a better form of work for couriers, and quite often people ignore the fact that employment would be fundamentally a different model from a platform perspective. Absolutely, delivery platform businesses can be run in an employment model. You can have shifts, you can have people obliged to work during those shifts and accept every delivery, and have bosses telling them where to be and what to do and how to do things, and have efficiency monitoring, making sure that people are efficient when they are working. So that's possible, but we as a company are not at all convinced that is a better model, and we're definitely not convinced that our courier partners would want that. And actually, like the evidence or like the feedback we're getting from our courier community confirms that. So when we ask our couriers every 3 months, how do you like working with us? 90% say they are either satisfied or very satisfied with the cooperation they have with us. And when we ask them what they appreciate most of the cooperation model, it is the number one reason is the flexibility and the freedom to decide when to work and how much to work, etc.
Absolutely.
So we see as a responsibility also for the platform, for us as a company, to listen to our courier community. And when we talk with policymakers and communicate in public, also with the broader society, to advocate for a model that allows us to retain the flexibility that our couriers value, but offer better safety nets and protections for our courier partners.
And I think this is the approach as well, because of the fact that, I mean, from the research that I've been doing on this area, it really backs this up. The idea of flexibility, And almost the fact that the kind of left-wing politicians and the trade unions are pushing people in the name of trying to protect them down a route that they're trying to get away from the traditional 9 to 5 and all the constraints, the barriers, and all the unnecessary things that basically a lot of the people who get into the platform and project sector want to avoid that. So it's kind of we're going in a negative spiral towards something that we're trying to escape from. And I think that we need to keep putting this message across as well, that there's an actually a need from individuals at all levels of society, and it's not just sort of the instant delivery sector. I think what we're seeing more and more is all spheres of the future of work, people demanding more flexibility, and I think this is a trend that we're going to see growing across the board, not just something that's going to be stuck into the platform economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and that's the big question around this issue is how do we better listen to the people that are providing their services, the labor, through platforms, how to make that voice heard. They don't have any institutional interest representation. Of course, unions are active in this discussion, but of course, traditionally they represent people that are in employment relationship. So one of the things that we've been putting forward and supporting is to make sure that self-employed contractors, independent contractors, self-employed have the right to organize themselves and engage in collective bargaining negotiations, in particular in the platform economy. So currently that is a bit of a legal gray zone. It's not entirely sure whether self-employed are, from a competition law perspective, as they are independent economic operators, from a competition law perspective, allowed to organize and negotiate collectively. And we've supported very much on EU level as well an initiative that would seek to clarify that from a competition perspective, self-employed should be able to organize themselves and negotiate collectively. Yeah.
And that's a good point that you bring us onto there, the kind of the European level, which also is in play here, as well as the national levels too. And of course, we see in the last couple of weeks that the European Commission has kicked off discussions around the workers' rights in the platform economy sector. It'd be interesting to hear a few thoughts and views that you have from your side on this, where it's going as we look to pull together a proposal probably at the end of 2021.
Yeah, very interesting times. So first of all, I need to say that it is really good that the EU Commission has taken this up. Now it's the right time to think, how do we regulate platform work? How do we make it better? How do we ensure that we're retaining the positive contributions that platform work brings to society and economy and the labor market, and while fixing the shortcomings? And doing that on an EU level makes a lot of sense because, to my understanding, nearly every single EU member state government is trying to figure out what to do about this question. So it makes sense that we're doing this in a EU single market, in a way, in a harmonized, in a coordinated manner, even though, of course, labor law and a lot of these concepts are sort of heavily national and non-harmonized at the moment. But it makes sense to look at this at the EU level. It makes sense that the Commission has taken this up, and it has also high political priority at EU level, which we also strongly support. Now, it's still, of course, early days. It's not entirely clear in which direction the Commission will go with its proposal, and of course, what will be the response of the European Parliament and also the member states in the legislative procedure. But to our understanding, I think the Commission has so far identified the right areas. So, for example, discussions are on legal certainty and classification. How do we make sure that there's more certainty for platforms and more certainty for people that provide services through platforms, platform workers essentially, but also around algorithmic transparency. So people need to understand how platforms work, as well as things like access to social security and for example, how do we ensure that we are improving access to social protections for everyone, regardless of classification. So these are really good, well-identified priority areas by the Commission. And we'll find out in the coming months what will follow concretely. But our sort of wish list to the EU Commission has been to indeed combine the best of both worlds, have the flexibility of the contract model coupled with better safety nets, and it's based on essentially 4 pillars. So first of all, we think that there should be increased legal certainty. So there should be clear conditions that need to be fulfilled in order for someone to be considered self-employed. We think that platforms should have the right to deduct and pay taxes and social security contributions on behalf of quarters to make sure that taxes and social security contributions are paid duly. Platforms should also have the right to provide better protections such as holiday pay, sick pay, pension contributions, insurance, and self-employed individuals should have the right to, as I mentioned before, organize themselves and negotiate collective agreements with platforms. So those are the sort of 4 pillars of how to make platform work better across the EU. And it will definitely not be easy for the EU Commission to sort of navigate this. There's a lot of sensitivities around national labor laws, different definitions and interpretation of what constitutes an employee, or how employment relationship is defined, and very different national systems, social security systems in different member states. So it's definitely not easy for the EU Commission to figure out a way to navigate this and seek further harmonization, raise the bar across the entire EU. But we're trying to help and support in any way we can, and of course strongly support the initiatives that are being planned.
Yeah, and from the way it looks at the moment as well, I think from the European Parliament side and also the European Commission, there's this understanding this is something that's happening. We're not trying to block this. As maybe some national arenas is the kind of this is terrible, it'll go away. The understanding that the growth rates, the importance that the platform economy more broadly has in actually relaunching the European economy as we come out of this current crisis, and accepting that, and the openness to work together to be able to create a future that really is aligned with the future of work, but also the needs of individuals. And it's not a black and white kind of 1950s view of the world where you're either an employer or an employee and nothing else works out. The sort of the evolution in terms matching the reality. So we're hoping that the legal framework and the policies will actually catch up to what's happening, and that we can unlock the talent and the growth opportunities for every individual across the European Union. So great work that Wolt is doing on this, and thanks for fighting the good fight there, Samuel.
Thank you, and thank you for your support. And I think there's of course, the public discussion is always polarized, and sort of like the extremes get a lot of visibility. But I think there's a lot of people who look at this in a very pragmatic way, see a lot of benefits in platforms. There's a lot of benefits in platform work, and the way that platform work facilitates is easy access, low barrier access to the labor market, and wants to see that, but also wants to see current shortcomings corrected or improved, just to make sure that, of course, it's important to preserve the European social model, make sure that there's no precarious working conditions, make sure that people can live off their wages, make sure that they're protected, they have the right coverage, etc., which are also incredibly important objectives. So I think that's like a big majority of people would approach this in a very pragmatic and in a very pragmatic way, and see that we need to preserve the good things and we need to fix the things that need to be fixed.
Absolutely. Well, amen to all of that one, Samuel. So thanks indeed for joining us today, and look forward to speaking again soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.